Welcome back. Paco Velez is the CEO of Feeding South Florida, which is helping families to keep food on the table. I asked him about how those families are struggling as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday.
What's happening now are families are continuing to struggle. We started seeing gas prices somewhat taper off, but now they're back up again. Food costs are back up, supply chain issues, whether it's the Hurricane Ian that created havoc with some of our farmers, or the bird flu or the swine flu that's created a shortage of items. All this has created an increase in demand and not so much supply. So we're seeing families come to us a lot more often. About 1.2 million individuals across our 4-county area, from Palm Beach down to Monroe County. We're seeing a lot of folks, but more importantly, we're seeing them a lot more frequently. Their dollars and their federal benefits are just not stretching as far as they used to. So they're coming to us to try to make sure that they have food on the table for themselves and their loved ones.
Can you give me a sense? 1.2 million individuals that you're serving. How does that compare to, for instance, what you were doing at the height of the pandemic?
Right before the pandemic, we were just over 700,000 individuals that we were serving. It seemed like everything was getting better. The economy was getting better. People were getting jobs. Then the pandemic hit, and that number more than doubled, went to almost 1.6 million individuals that were needing assistance on a regular basis. Right after the pandemic was over, we saw families start getting back to work. They needed less services, but once the economic crisis or issues hit, where fuel started going up, the rent started going up, and food prices started going up, we saw families starting to come back, right at about 1.2 million individuals, and not just those individuals, but a lot more frequently to our pantries here, to our partner agencies. We have over 300 different nonprofit organizations that we serve, embedded in community, the trusted organizations in those neighborhoods. They're seeing a huge influx of families, and they're seeing them a lot more frequently.
And when we talk about fuel costs, you're referring, of course, to the fuel costs that families feel. That, in other words, the cost of getting to work, driving a car, taking kids to school, because takes more to fill up their gas tanks. They have less money to buy the necessities like food and other items. But the fuel costs also affect what you do, because you have to bring the food down from Georgia or deliver it across the state. So talk to me a little bit about the impact that the rising fuel costs have had just on your operations.
Absolutely, you have you make a great point. Our families are having to choose a roof over our head, fuel in the car, food on the table. What's going to win? What's going to lose out? Feeding South Florida is not immune to this. We do have a fleet of over 30 box trucks and trailers like you see behind me, but we also have home delivery vans that we operate, and they all operate on diesel fuel, which is the most expensive fuel that there is. And when we see prices over $5, over $6 a gallon, it's really putting a strain on our operations as we go and pick up food from where it is to where it needs to go. Not only that, but you do make a point. We're part of the Feeding America Network. And as part of the Feeding America Network, we do receive food from all over the country, from Georgia, from Michigan, from Virginia, all across the country. And to bring that product in, we do hire third-party transportation companies, which are more than doubling the cost of delivery, just because shortage of drivers, as well as increased fuel costs that are making it almost impossible or very difficult to get food from other parts of the country.
Look, obviously, when families are struggling, it becomes harder as well to try to reach out and help others. So I don't know where you are in terms of donations, if as the economic crisis has continued, whether or not people are not being able to be as generous as they once were. Give me a sense for where you are in terms of donations, and obviously, I'll give you a moment to make a pitch as to, tell people out there why, Feeding South Florida is a good investment if they can spare a few bucks or some dollars to go to your organization.
We've seen our food supply start to taper off. Last year, we distributed 64 million pounds to the 4-county area. The year prior, we distributed 154 million pounds. So it's a huge reduction in food available. for our family. So we're having to go out there and purchase product. We just purchased over 6,000 turkeys, and then we were short, so we needed to go back out. We purchased another 2,000, 3,000 turkeys, putting us close to 10,000 at almost $2 a pound. That really adds up. So we're competing against other organizations, against for-profit companies to go out and purchase some of this product. Uh, so the best way to support and to get involved and to be part of the solution is to make that monetary contribution. South Florida has always been very generous. They've always supported our cause. They've always supported Feeding South Florida, the families we serve, regardless of whether it's a natural disaster, a government shutdown, a global pandemic. South Florida has always been very, very generous to Feeding South Florida, and we appreciate that. Now more than ever, we absolutely need the support of our community to continue to put fuel in our tanks, to put food on the table for our families, and getting it from all over the country. We for Feeding South Florida puts back in the community more than 98% of all donations that come to us. So we're very efficient, and our core value is service. We want to make sure that we're serving our families and that no one gets turned away, and we will not turn anyone away. So anybody that needs assistance, please go to our website. Please come to us, and anybody that can support, same thing. Please go to our website. Please come to us, and we're happy to bring you to the table and be part of that solution.
Feeding South Florida is also helping our neighbors on the west coast of Florida who are still suffering from Hurricane Ian. I know that you've gotten some specific donations specifically for that, so you're not really taking food away from folks in the four-county area from Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade, or the Florida Keys, but you are working to help those on the west coast as well, aren't you?
We are. Because of our affiliation with Feeding America, we have over 200 sister food banks across the country. One of them located in Naples and Fort Myers. So we've sent out our generator. Our generator was powering their warehouse for a couple of weeks. We sent truckload after truckload every day. We sent a 53-footer like the one behind me, full of food that was earmarked for disaster response and for that area. We also sent a box truck like the other one behind me on this side, and a driver that stayed there for a whole week for the last 4 weeks, so they can have additional staff, additional resources to distribute food to those affected by Hurricane Ian. So those folks that are earmarking or restricting food or funding to that area, we're absolutely using it to make sure it goes out there to assist those families who were affected by Hurricane Ian. We are not taking away from our local resources. All the local resources go right back into these 4 counties.
Look, Thanksgiving has always been one of my favorite holidays, not just because of the food, but because of the idea of getting together with family, seeing people together, watching a little football, just sort of enjoying the day. And for a lot of families, that's a little harder, and you make that a little easier for them. And I think that folks in South Florida hopefully will respond, because I agree with you, what you said before. Folks in South Florida, no matter how hard things are there or here, they're willing to step up. Paco, I have a favorite saying that I like to use in moments like this. It came from when I was doing some research in a book about Gander, Newfoundland, in terms of helping people. And one of the things, there's an expression that they like to say, which is, you can always add a little bit more water to the soup. And what that means is, and what I learned, and I think it's the most beautiful expression I've ever heard, is that if you don't have a lot, but you've got enough to make a simple soup for your family, but your neighbor is hungry, you can always add a little bit more water to the soup and invite them over for dinner. And I always like that theory, and that's why I've always related to Feeding South Florida so much, because I think that in a way that you're adding a little bit more water to the soup to try to help more and more people. So I appreciate that, Paco.
Food brings people together, right? It brings people around the dinner table. It's where we fellowship, where we talk, where we talk about our day, about tragedies and celebrations in our life. And for a lot of these families that we serve, that the food is missing. That's a missing ingredient. So South Florida has always helped us put that ingredient on the dinner table, get families together, and get them talking around that dinner table. So we appreciate that.
We'll be right back.